so excited. I'm so nervous. Okay, this is not it. This is just get the giggles out. Let's get the giggles out. Okay. Welcome to this week's edition of the Black Girl's Guide to the Pivot, and I'm so excited. This week's edition, as if like I've been recording every week. Truth be told, I've been on hiatus, but nonetheless, I am back, and I have an amazing guest. So I've known Christina, I don't know, before I had the last set of kids. So that's 13 years. And I'm going to be real, because y'all know on the podcast, I'm going to be super transparent. When I came to Christina and her mom, I was on CalWorks. People don't even know that. Well, actually, I'll be telling folks. I got my last book of food stamps, all the things. And so I was part of, I don't think they called it a TSE program back then, but I think that's what it's called now. And so met Christina. Christina was always down to earth, super down to earth, okay? I loved her at first sight. We became friends, and throughout this journey of the last 13 years, marriages, children, all the dumb stuff, all the great stuff, we have both evolved. And so when I decided to come back and reinvigorate the Black Girl's Guide to the Pivot, the first person I thought about that needed to be on the show was Christina. We had this really amazing conversation at your home, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm talking about. We're really growing up. We're doing big things. So y'all, let me tell you about Christina. She is a social entrepreneur. She's a community leader and advocate. She does all the things. An amazing mom, a little sister, because I know we think you're the big sister. She's a little sister who acts like the big sister. She's her mom's favorite daughter. She's her mom's only daughter. Mom's favorite daughter. And when I think about Black girls pivoting in life, I think of Christina. So Christina, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're so cute.
All of that.
All of that. That is all you. So when we think about pivoting, I always tell people, I have to remind people, I didn't come up with the word pivot, but I love the word pivot. It is from a Friends episode I never saw. I was at a conference. This woman who was not melanated, she was talking about pivoting, and she was like, this Friends episode, and it's the sofa, and you have to pivot. And I fell in love with the word pivot, so it became my thing. I have later since went to YouTube and saw that clip to be like, oh, that's what everyone is talking about. So when we think about pivoting in life, what comes to mind for you?
Any kind of change or transformation, anytime you're going in a direction and it's like, nope, another direction. So anytime you have to pivot, if you have to change any kind of direction in your life, that's when I think about pivot.
Okay. So one of the amazing things about our conversation that happened at your home was like this, you had flipped the switch where it just sit differently in your head. What led up to that? Or talk about where you started at and where you think you're going now and where you hope to head.
Well, before, my mother and I have had a business since 2006. We have a nonprofit. And ever since we've started it, I never had this owning sensation. Mm-hmm. I felt like it was my mother's, and I was just there to help. And about maybe a full year ago, I realized, no, this is mine. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a legacy. This is our lineage. This is us. Mm-hmm. And I took that ownership, made a pivot, and here I am today, where I think about forward thinking in my life and my business and my children's lives. Yeah. I just always want to have an outlook for it now, and it's not so much just existing. I have goals, I have vision on what I want from my life. So that's what's a little different than what was before.
I love that. So when we're younger, we kind of live in the moment, and we might even be forward thinking to a year, up to a year. Exactly. That's it. Yeah. We're like, the world ends in a year. So we don't think about nothing else past the year. And then as we mature, life circumstances starts to shift how we think about what we want the world to end up being or what we want our lives to be. Mm-hmm. So when you shared with me that you saw the legacy that was being built, it was like, oh my gosh, let's talk about legacy building. Yeah. So what is different when you think about legacy building for your children? We had the before the podcast conversation. So we're going to pull in the before the podcast conversation where we're talking about for our children and Black people in general.
Yeah. your children's children is a real thing. And even though I probably won't know, after Corey's kids, but that's a big thing. What do you want to leave to them? And what do you want them to know about you when they get here? So having a legacy for me is thinking more about what happens when I'm gone. So what work am I putting in place now that will last long as when I'm gone? What things can I teach my kids that they can hold on to that will get poured into their children, but that makes sense to actually help them live? Not, make sure you brush your hair every day and all that kind of stuff. No, I need you to, I need things instilled in my children that will help them when they get 40, when they get 60, things that they can take and really has some meat to it that they can use.
Yeah, so that made me think of another YouTuber. I can't think of her name at this moment, but she was a black woman. She is a black woman. She was. We could change our colors. Okay,
Hey.
She is a black woman, and she had her first child while she was a teenager. And you know how everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, your life is over." She ultimately ended up going to law school. And when I was watching her particular episode, her daughter was graduating from college. And the mom, who's now an attorney and now has a whole business, she had this moment where she pivoted in her mind. Like we set this, we fall into social expectations of our kids should go to college and then they go out into the world and get a good job. And she had this epiphany, well, I just built a whole business and I actually need to hire someone in the very role that my child is actually graduating from. And I can actually offer my child a competitive salary just like any other company. Why wouldn't I just bring her into the fold, into the family's business? And I think that was a pivot in mindset for me too, because we homeschool our children. And so the reason why we homeschool is so our children have a whole different perspective on life. But then it was just like, wait a minute, what if I build my business to scale so that they can inherit or come into the business as opposed to going out into the ugly world? And so our conversation before the conversation, we were talking about your handsome baby boy. He's not a baby, but just having the ability for him to come into the business with his skills and strengths. Like, what was that? Where was that aha moment for you all?
That was probably about 3 weeks ago.
Thank God for pivots, right?
It's so crazy. We were sitting there and, it's summer, it's break. And we were like, well, you have some extra time. Do you mind doing this part, of the business? And right now is an interesting place, period, for my family because my children show interest in what we do. So my daughter's like, can I come and file, papers or shred papers or whatever? I just want to be around it. So that's a great place to be. So I was sitting there and I thought about it maybe like the day after, we told Corey about that. And I was like, oh my God, I just hired my child to work at my business.
Yes.
And that's what I want to do. And it's perfectly okay. I think growing up, the way the world seemed was as if things were untouchable. If you are in this level of life, this is just untouchable.
Yes.
It's unforeseen. You can't get there unless you do a million things.
Right.
What I'm learning now, what I have pivoted to understand is it doesn't matter. If you have the vision for it, if you have the goal to go get it, it's going to happen. Yep. There is nothing that I can't have. If I know I can have it, if I can see that I can have it, then I'm going to have it. It may not come in the time frame that I'm thinking, but I know that if I can see it, it's possible. Yeah. And so with my kids, I definitely want them to know that whatever it is you want to do, big, small, wherever, it's truly possible. There's no, because you came from this, you can't do that. No, it's not that. It's open. Everything is open. I love that I travel with my kids so they can see the world and they know that if you don't have to do what's right here. If you don't want to do anything right here, that's okay. Yeah. And you can do whatever it is, wherever it takes you. Try it, see.
Right. You're like opening the box. And so one of the things I remember about your mom, it was a thing that just stood out to me, is that she didn't have any of those social expectations of you all. And I was like, wait, what? Wait. Yeah. So you don't have to do it. So I, at 22, became a probation officer. Why? Because my mama said I had to be one because she was one and I was pregnant and I had a kid. And, you know, you got to get a good county job. At least in California, you got to get a good county job.
Yep.
And so I did it. But I love that about your mom. She was one of those very few examples in which I was like, oh, so we don't have to make life, like, because life was hard for us, we got to make it hard for our children. She was like, nah, like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. You're carrying on that legacy of why do we, just because we might have had some challenges, we don't have to enforce those type of parameters for our children. Exactly. And I think that's like one of the missing things for Black kids, period. We need to be in positions to open more doors so that they don't have to struggle. It's not hard because them other folks that are non-melanated, they're opening doors left and right, whether their children even have the skill sets to do it. And they learn it along the way.
But I think like we were almost bred to think that there's only one way to do things. Yeah. So you go, you get your 9 to 5, you work that for 40, 50 years, and then you retire on whatever's given to you. You're not allowed to ask for more. You're not allowed to do more. You're not allowed to say more. And I feel like our generation is the one that's taken us out of that mind frame. And it's like, there's not just one way to do things. I can be exactly what you are and go a totally different way about it.
Yeah.
It's okay, you know? But people feel like, no, you know, you have to go this way and it only works like this. No, I think I want to do this level. I'm going to jump up to this level. Then I'm going to do this level. It doesn't have to go in the same way for everybody.
Oh, man, preach. In my 20s and early 30s, I would keep a job for like a year to 2 years. That was my thing. As I got older, I would say my shelf life is like 2 years and then I'm outro. Like I'm not going to stay here. And people would look at me like I'm crazy. But now as a consultant and having a communications business, my jobs are like the consulting contracts I get rely on all those times I bounced from this job to that job. Now I'm like, I have a wealth of experience.
Hello.
When you thought I was crazy, I had a whole, you know, I was setting myself up. So it is beautiful to see different perspectives in life because you're right. We were told, you know, it's also along the lines of, I hate the phrase, be humble.
Yeah.
I don't need to be humble. Okay, Chad and Becky, mediocre as hell.
Live out loud.
Right? Mediocre as hell. Ain't nobody telling them to be humble. Yeah. So why do we have to be humble? And I feel like that term is really just to keep us in our place. Like, don't dream bigger. Stay humble. Yeah. Don't ask for more. And it's just
easier to herd when you're all together. So if I keep you all down there, no one's going to get out. And because once they let us loose, you can start to see we take over.
It's like being unplugged from the matrix.
Yep.
Essentially, that is what we're doing. We're all trying to unplug from the matrix. And so even in this evolution of all of us unplugging from the matrix and living life however we see fit, it is definitely different. Yes. Like, I'm woke, the good kind of woke, not the kind that everybody want to be like, oh, you woke. The good kind of woke, right? Like, I know better. But I always daily and quite often have to challenge those social programming that I've received. Yeah. The conversation before the conversation, I briefly mentioned Megan Thee Stallion. Now, I love Megan Thee Stallion. Somebody might have something to say. I love the fact that she gets to own her sexuality. Yes. Because growing up, we weren't even allowed to have red lipstick because you was going to floozy. My grandmother would call you a floozy. Yep. Okay? You better keep that aspirin between your knees. You better not like nothing, you know? Yep. And so I'm like, yes, at least she gets to own what is hers, because the other narrative is your body is just to please men. Exactly. Just like that's what we were taught. But you can't enjoy nothing. And Megan is like full proof that you can enjoy that process, whatever that looks like. But here's where I struggle. At what point do we start to evolve? I don't know. Megan is still in her 20s, I'm assuming. Okay, so she got some time. But I know I have to always challenge my social constructs based on what I was conditioned to believe. But I hope that these young ladies will get to a point where they pivot in their mind that you don't, like, you got to own it. You know, you don't let it run you.
I think it's a process, because even for me, definitely was running with it. You know, this is what I'm doing. And then I pivoted, something happened, and it was like, you know, for me, I don't need that anymore. Right. Now I want to do this. You know, like there's so much I don't do a year ago, you know, that I do today. And so I think everybody's change is different. some people don't grow out of certain things, and that's just part of who they are.
Okay.
And I don't think that, it's any different. I don't think that there's like a time frame that you can be a hoe versus,
well,
growing out of it.
What's the shelf life for being a hoe?
Like, really, I don't know if there is one. You guys should tell us, because I don't know. But it's definitely a process, and everybody's is different. But yeah, literally, I'm just now getting to the point where I don't want to be half naked every day. That was something I did often. I wanted to be half naked, and now I don't. And not necessarily like because, oh my God, I'm naked, but just I have a different way I want to feel when I get dressed now. Oh. And that's for me. That's not for anybody else, So for me, that's just, it's just a timing, a process. Everybody's is different. I don't think it's a certain time frame.
Well, see, I never grew up feeling free like that. So maybe my transition is I will be half naked. I don't know. Like, maybe. I'm sure my husband would be like, yes, you should do that. Do that all the time. But I think that just recognizing that as women, we definitely don't all have the same journey. Yeah. At all, like not even remotely. And like we are seeing life based on the context of our perspective, our history, our cultural understanding. And I one of the reasons why I created this podcast is there was, at the time we launched this podcast during the pandemic. I was like, man, there's going to be so many opportunities, but Black people are going to miss out if they don't figure out how to pivot really fast. And so as this podcast has evolved, it's about making sure we give women the permission, or we share our stories that hopefully gives them their own personal permission to really live life on their terms, but also evolve as needed. Because like we sometimes think we have to stay the same person, like forever. I don't know about that, right? So what are some other takeaways? So if you were talking to a younger version of yourself, what would you tell the younger version of yourself?
To breathe. I am a very, everything has to be like this. And if it's not black and white, then it didn't make sense to me. But now I love to see the color in things. So I would just tell myself to just breathe. Nothing is to where the world is going to end. No decision you make is going to kill you, unless you're doing like crack or something. But anyway. Right. So, but that's what I would tell myself. Like, just breathe. Okay. Just live life and pay attention to what's around you. Make decisions off of that. I was chasing the ideology of different things. Like, I want to be with the thug. I want to be popular. I want to be all these different things, but none of it was really me, Okay. And I believe you get the best form of yourself when you're genuinely you. Take out all of the distractions, all of the people that are saying what they feel you should be. Because inside of you, there's always like, I don't really think that's for me, but you still do it because they are saying it may be working, and you're kind of scared to go on your own idea. But believe in who you are, and finding yourself young is amazing. I didn't do it, but I think it would be so much easier. My son is one of those people who just knows who he is. He came here like that. That is what it is.
My son too. But I think that's because they had us as parents. They were like, look,
we are amazing.
Yeah. Yes, we are. So I think that has a lot to do because they saw us evolve. Yeah. They saw us fall.
They grew up with us.
They really did. And I always tell my son, when you're ready to go to therapy to address me, I will sit on the couch and pay for that session. Yeah. I did my best. I love you, but I know that I'm sure I messed up and probably caused harm. So, okay. Now, if we were in 5 years from now, I know
28.
I know we wasn't thinking like a year, but 5 years from now, we're a little bit older. What are you hoping, or what is the direction you want to land in 5 years?
Oh my gosh.
Drake's wife, right?
The girl.
Drake's wife. Okay.
Y'all don't understand. But no, I definitely want to be in a position where I have my family living on a compound. My business has turned into a campus filled thing. Like, I feel like my business will incorporate into a campus, and everything that we give to our people will be on just one place. Yeah. 5 years from now, definitely traveling where I spend a month abroad. not just a week or two.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I'm there
Yeah.
for a month and I'm working, remotely, and that's what I do. My life already isn't stressful, but when you're trying to grow, money is a stressor, So I hope in 5 years, it's not as much stress for growth. It's more settling into what is, Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you invite me to the wedding to Drake.
Yes.
Okay. And the purses you said he has, can I get at least one?
I know.
Just one.
Just one.
Because I'm not going to buy it.
No.
I'll just accept it.
Just so y'all might want to know, Drake has a closet. His closet is 3,600 square feet. So there's this closet in his house that he has for his wife filled with the Hermes bags. He literally buys them and just sits them because they acquire, And so when we get married, those will be mine.
Oh, a 3,600 square foot closet.
Yes. It's bigger than a lot of people's houses.
I know it's bigger than where I live.
Yeah.
What kind of closet?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm like, what 30?
know.
What? That's a house as a closet.
It's crazy.
I love it though.
But yeah, those are the things I aspire to have, whether it's
Right?
Drake or in a form of something else. But I aspire to have that much wealth where it's just
Why not?
wealth. I don't want to be rich. I want wealth.
Wealth. Let the church say amen.
Amen.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So as we wrap up this podcast episode, and I just want to say, if you're watching on YouTube, hey, because you get to see us, hey. If you're listening, you should check us out on YouTube so you can see what we look like. But we're so glad you are here and back to the Black Girls Guide to the Pivot. So what's your final thought to leave with the listeners or viewers?
Perspective. You've brought that up, but that's literally where I'm living in my life right now is perspective. How you see things is definitely how it is. And if you can see things past what someone else is telling you it looks like, look for yourself. Your perspective matters. How you see things matters, because my life is going to be a reflection of how I saw the world, not how you saw the world for me. That's my thought process.
And that was a mic drop. Don't drop that mic. That was a mic drop. All right. Well, thank you for that perspective on the pivot.
Yes.
And I hope everyone that's listening and watching took something out of this episode to apply to your life. And guess what? We'll be back next week. So we'll be on the same bat channel. Well, actually, a new one, YouTube. The same bat time. So make sure you check us out. And we hope that you are pivoting through life strategically and with focus. Y'all come back now. You hear?